Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's edition of Beyond the Ordinary Show. And oh my God, I've been speaking with Denise, but with Denise, it's just like this heart opening and relaxation that expands the field just to being ourselves, just to being ourselves. And it's like what comes through and all that, and what wants to express through the artfulness that's just there. And then it just becomes this amazing articulation of love, really, that's being shared and the discovery of that. And I can just feel what's coming through. And I want to invite all of you to find that part of you that wants to be in that space of conversation and relaxing and exchange, and perhaps I'll say shape shifting into what's true for you right now, as we dive deeper into today's conversation, and then we'll open up for Q&A a little bit later. And today's topic with Denise is shape shifting with pets. And this is something we've never covered on BTO before, shape shifting, let alone with pets. So this is going to be extraordinary. And from my experience with Denise, it's like, but of course, and oh, wow, it's like, I didn't know that. And how do I start applying this now? And we're going to go through all that and more. So if you're new to Denise, sit back, relax, receive, open. If you've been with Denise before and have been experienced through her interviews or through your direct work, same suggestion, or perhaps bring in your consciousness and understanding of what's available as well. And we invite all your contributions in that aspect. And again, feel free to raise your hand and prepare for asking questions later on during the call. So for those of you who are new to Denise, Denise is a certified dog trainer and pet intuitive. And after a decade of working with some of the most prestigious advertising agencies in New York City, she left Madison Avenue to work with pets and their humans, eventually creating her own mindful pet lifestyle brand, Pet Prana. Now, she combines traditional training techniques with energetic considerations of pet guardianship. And Denise highlights how everyday interactions with our pets have the power to transform us. Her work provides a roadmap to how your pet's behaviors give you specific insight into transformation that's ready to take place, including which habits, beliefs, and patterns to release so that you and your pet can vibe higher. Think of it as self-help for pet's sake. And something that Denise isn't necessarily talking in her bio either is really her capacity to tune into different levels of consciousness. Last call, we talked about the galactic. And when we went into that experience and didn't expect that from Denise. And again, what came through was wow, and so grounded at the same time. And so Denise has this very unique and beautiful capacity to really tap into where your consciousness and your pet's consciousness is guiding towards your highest expression of self. And with that, Denise, I want to welcome you to tonight's call, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's wonderful as always. And your words just touch my heart. And I love that we're on video. I love that as you speak, you're moving, you're flowing, because that's really what the crux of shape shifting is, right? It's shifting frequencies, vibrations to create new experiences, newer expressions of ourselves. So we'll definitely get into that. But every time we touch base on a little bit of an esoteric topic like shape shifting, I always like to start off kind of grounding it in a more practical experience that I think everybody can relate to.
Right. Yes.
And so I want to start off with a story about decorating, right? So my mom recently moved to Los Angeles, and after 40 years in Brazil, she left all her furniture behind. So she has a blank canvas of an apartment. And because I've always been so passionate about decorating and organizing, I was like the obvious choice to help her, get set up in her apartment. And so what I thought was going to be a really fun experience was definitely not, because what I realized is our aesthetics are completely different. Right. Whereas I thrive when there's, minimalism around me, when everything's kind of sleek, clean palette, not a lot of things around. She's the opposite. She really vibrates higher when she's around, something that we'll call shabby chic, just overstuffed, a lot of, decor, a lot of visual stimulus around. But to me, that just feels really, very different from what makes me comfortable. And so, as only family can do, we're in the decorating process and emotions run high. And she's telling me how my apartment feels like a cold hotel room. And I'm telling her how the vision she has feels like a Cracker Barrel, like no, no hating on Cracker Barrel. I love their food. I love their fried okra. But to me, that sense of decor where there's always, five things in every nook and cranny just feel really claustrophobic for me. And so in that discussion, what really came about was a reminder of how shape, form, colors can inform the vibration of a space, right? Whereas if you walk into a very clean, modern apartment, you feel one way and you perceive the energy to be a certain way. If you walk into a shabby chic apartment, you might feel very differently, right?
Mm,
And so, when it comes to shape shifting, this apartment is the perfect metaphor because if my mom decorates her apartment to her taste and then I move in, 2 years later and I decide to switch it completely,
mm,
have modern clean lines, the vibe of those same four walls completely change. In essence, this apartment has shapeshifted, right? And so if we take that metaphor one step further and we talk about our physical bodies as containers, right? Our physical bodies are there to contain our energy, so that we can contain within our own form different emotions, different vibrations, different beliefs, thoughts, habits, attitudes, so that we can truly sample it as uniquely ours. We could think of our physical bodies as a bookcase in an apartment, right? A bookcase is a bookcase. What makes it and creates the vibration around it is what shapes, colors, and forms you decide to put in there. And so if our bodies can create a different sense of illusion and form in a space, depending on what it's embodying and displaying, then we can be very mindful about what we're exuding, right? If I want to embody the energy of a specific animal with different traits and thoughts and vibes of that animal, I'm shape shifting the space and creating a little bit of that vibe. So, what we'll be talking today with shape shifting is how shape shifting truly does change you, or shape shifting truly uses frequencies, vibrations, and traits to change the outer form and how it interacts with the environment around it.
amazing. Okay, cannot wait to get into this. So it's how do we get into, let's start with the practical. It's like, what are the ways that we do that every day? Like, because we are doing it. I notice it in myself. You can take a picture of me 5 minutes apart. It's like, wow, I just shifted into something else. And I don't recognize myself as the one 5 minutes before. It's so interesting.
Absolutely. And so shape shifting is one of those things that has been around forever, right? So shape shifting is told in stories that span cultures, millennia. Maybe the most common form of shape shifting that we know of is werewolves, right? Everybody thinks of werewolves. That's one that literally every single culture has some sort of variation of the werewolf. And when we speak of werewolf, the way that we tell his story and how he behaves in the world, it can be everywhere, ranging from the macabre and kind of fear inducing to something more lighthearted, like think Michael J. Fox in Teen Wolf, right?
Right.
So, we have the werewolves. Of course, there's Greek Roman mythology. My gosh, the gods, Zeus shapeshifted into every animal under the sun. The gods, the Norse, also the gods shapeshifted into all sorts of different forms. Basically, if you were a god back in those days and you weren't shapeshifting, you didn't know what you were missing. Like that's just unheard
Mm,
of, right? It was just as quickly as people changed clothes, they would change forms. In the British and Irish traditions of the fairies, fairies were known to be shapeshifters too. And the fairies that couldn't shapeshift, they could glamour. And this is really interesting because glamoring is kind of changing the vibrations and frequencies so that whoever is experiencing that fairy would perceive them to be a different form. So that's interesting because it really shows how shapeshifting is a little bit of an illusion as well, just as our physical form is. Beyond beyond the British and the Celtic fairies, we also had the hybrids, right? And hybrids are going to be a really powerful example for us to leverage. Think of, the centaurs. Think of the, Greek mythology and all the half man, half beast out there. Think of the Egyptian gods, half bird, half man. Think of the Hindu tradition with, a human body, elephant head. All of these hybrids were incredibly powerful. In Greek, actually, I found what they're called. They're called the therianthropes. And therian in Greek is wild animal, and anthropos means men. So, every culture has a name for this half man, half beast, if you will. I mean, think of Disney. Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. I know now there's a cartoon coming out with a woman or a little girl who shapes into a red bear. So this half man, half animal, this shape shifting is something that permeates culture. And the reason why it's left behind for us is because it is one of the most powerful tools that we can tap into. It's leveraging the power of our animal companions, their traits, their magic, and putting it into our day to day. And so, to your point, John, we've been practicing shape shifting day in and day out. And what I've been kind of downloaded is there's 3 specific ways that we shape shift on a daily basis. One is by shedding layers, right? So when we go through our world and we go through the energetic clutter and we work through it, we let go of the denser vibration so that we can vibrate at a higher vibration. And as we vibrate at higher vibrations, new frequencies are available to us. So that's when we're lighter, we're able to tap into new energies and our own intuition. A lot of you might notice also with this happening that basically energetic form becomes less solid. So I don't know if any of you have the experience of like looking at a table or looking at your floor, and what you know is a very hard surface looks more like squiggly lines. There's not a hard boundary with that object anymore. That's because when we vibrate at higher frequencies, boundaries and form becomes less apparent. The second way that we shapeshift on a daily basis is through empathic hits, right? And so this is going to be very similar to how they describe the gods changing into different form. Empathic hits are experiencing the world through the eyes and being of another. So one example of this is, I'm a potato chips girl all day long, but at like twice a year, I decide I want some Oreo cookies, right? And what's an Oreo cookie if you're not dunking it in milk? So I poured myself, a small glass of milk. I had an Oreo cookie. I dunked it, took a bite, and boom, like a movie screen. It was crazy. I got this empathic hit, and I could feel, see, sense, see. I just experienced the world through the body of this dairy cow. And at that point, I was like, nope, I'm out. No more milk for me. That is it. That goes away. And it just, at even now, I can tap into that empathic hit and be like, whoa, I can see it, feel it. And it's very much, it feels very real, like it's me, but it's outside of myself, right? My energy kind of jumped into that. It's almost like astral projection. The other thing that tends to happen when we're getting these empathic hits, not only are we experiencing the world through another's body, another's eyes, another kind of being, but also we can tap into group consciousness. So that's when we're able to tap into group consciousness of the dolphins, of the whales, and even of our galactics. So the beauty of that is as we go through the shape shifting and we're clearing out and shedding layers by letting go of old habits, beliefs, and energetic clutter, then that clears us for this next step, which is having more of those empathic hits, tapping into others' beings, and then also tapping into group consciousness. The third way that we shapeshift every day is by both intentionally and unintentionally embodying the traits of others. So let's start with unintentionally. How many times have you been told, if you have siblings, like, oh my God, are you guys twins? But meanwhile, you guys don't look alike at all, right? The fact that you live together, your energies melded, your aura, your emotions for probably 18 years means that you've kind of taken on a little bit of each other. Your boundaries have blurred. If not you with a sibling, a best friend, a family member, think of how many times have people told you that you look like your pet, right? We always hear that pets look like they're humans and vice versa. That's because our energy is melding together. So that's a little bit of that unintentional shape shifting where you're taking on a part of someone outside of yourself or something outside of yourself. Intentional shape shifting. This is what we're going to focus on today. This to me is the magic. This is when we intentionally embody and bring in different magical powers and traits and characteristics of an animal. And so this would be exemplified in literature by the hybrids, right? Those half man, half bull, all of those exemplifications tend to be a manifestation of this intentional shape shifting and bringing on that energy of others. And that's where we get to play, we get to explore, and that's the magic we have at hand right now. We've all gone through a lot of that shedding of energetic layers. A lot of us are getting empathic hits, are intuitively, tapped into group consciousness. Now we get to play and manifest and embody. And so that's going to be part of the shape shifting. That's going to be really exciting.
Amazing. Oh, that's so exciting. I love that you're bringing it in. I have awarenesses of it, but I think it's so natural and organic and in a forgotten practice that we don't realize when we're doing it. And again, bringing in the topic of our pets, and now they help us into that shape shifting. And we've always known as animals as companions and helpers. And many of us have talked about how they help us carry and transmute energy. But this aspect of shape shifting and our pets and animals in the wild, they're actually giving us the capacity, and you share this, to shift into higher frequencies. How do we tap into that with our pets in that relationship?
Beautiful. So all animals play a role in helping us shapeshift on a daily basis. Our animal companions, who are our pets, the ones who we have the most honest, intimate relationships with us, they tend to help us with the shape shifting of shedding of layers. So because of our daily interaction with them and the transformation that comes from that, they're the ones who illuminate patterns, habits, views that are denser than the frequency that we currently have access to, and we release those. So they're helping us in kind of that first stage. And, this isn't sequential. When it comes to shape shifting, we're constantly shedding different layers, shedding old habits, shedding old views, because that's part of just being fluid, right? And being alive. Animals in the wild, they're going to help us more with the other two forms of shape shifting. And there's a reason for that. They're going to help us with the empathic hits because of the group consciousness, and they're going to help us with the intentional embodying of others' traits and energies. And the reason for that is because a lot of animals in the wild, we don't have the one-on-one relationship that we have with our animal companions. And animals in the wild tend to run in packs or flocks or groups. And it's so interesting because basically they're the manifestation of a very universal frequency, right? They all are tapped into the same frequency, the same vibration. And if frequency and vibration translate to how we perceive form in the 3D reality, think about how interesting it is that animals in the wild all look the same. They've tapped into the same vibration, the same group consciousness. It's not this cacophonous kind of vibrations and frequencies making up this flock. It's all very uniform. That's why they all look alike. So our pets are going to help us with the shedding of the layers because we have more of that one-on-one intimacy. And then the animals in the wild are going to help us tapping into the group consciousness and also into that opportunity to embody these traits. And because they're so clear in their frequency and vibration, that's how we're able to kind of embody those in us. It's not muddled energy. It's very specific frequencies for very different animals.
So when we get into these capacities, and okay, we have an awareness that, again, we'll use our pets or power animals, if you'll do for that, and we tap into the frequency, or it's stimulating something within us. How do we know that we're shape shifting, and how can we attune to that? I don't want to say use, because that sounds like we're leaking energy or trying to take something from something else that doesn't belong to us. How do we interact with and relate to that energy to bring an awareness of a new consciousness that's being born?
So it's interesting because what we're doing when we're shapeshifting, we're becoming, right? We're not gaining access to, we're becoming. And so one of the best ways that we know we're doing it is how we feel in the moment, right? So, there's a few different ways that we can leverage shapeshifting. And I think in talking about the examples, it will become clear. Think about if you are, say you're at work and you have a new strategy that you want buy-in on, right? If I'm trying to sell something on an idea or try to, lead people down a certain path, there's a couple different animals that might come to mind. One is a lion, right? So if you think of the energy and the traits of a lion, if you really puff out your chest, your shoulders are back, you close your eyes, you feel your mane floating, as you're having a communication from the top of the hill. If you embody that energy and then walk into a conference room with that energy and you give your presentation, odds are people are going to fall in line. They're going to listen to you because you just feel powerful. Even all of us just feeling where that lands in our body, how it makes our posture, how it affects us. For a lot of people, even in the eyes, you see different kind of looks and feelings, and sometimes eye color even shifts. That's going to be very different than trying to get buy-in using the energy of dolphin, right? Because whereas lion is very assertive and very much leading by power, dolphin is going to be very different. Dolphin's more collaborative. Dolphin's going to come in and jump in and be really cute and interesting, and people want to lean in and listen more. Dolphin comes in, jumps in the wave, jumps back down. It's about talking as much as it listening. It's about understanding the people you're trying to convince, getting their emotional buy-in, listening to what their emotion is around around this idea. And so although it might take a little longer and you might not have the authority, if you embody the energy of dolphin, it may be more appropriate given your audience. But even just talking about those animal companions, it feels very different. And then of course, we want to think about the ramifications, because shape-shifting is an incredible power. So we want to make sure that we understand it in its entirety. Anytime I'm looking to leverage the magic of an animal, you want to ask yourself, all right, what's the end game? Why am I leveraging it? What's the very specific trait associated with this animal companion that I want to leverage? Because of course, animals, just like us, are multifaceted. So elephant or lion or dolphin, they can have a whole slew of traits that we can leverage in different scenarios. But the ramifications are important, because whereas with lion, I might get immediate sign-in. People are a little intimidated by me. I'm speaking with authority. So they're like, all right, I'm going to believe them. Think about lion in nature. In the pride, the leader of the pack is always there because he's holding that position. But inevitably, there's challengers. So if you embody the traits and the magic of lion, know that you always are going to be a little bit on edge, watching your back, because there may be a challenger coming in. But man, will you get it done quickly. With the energy of dolphin, however, because it's more fun, more playful, you've created that emotional bond, it's more of a sense of collaboration. We did this together, but it might take a little longer, and it might be something that eventually just dissipates with the wave. So as we shapeshift, we want to be really mindful about the energy we're calling in and what the ramifications are.
I really love that. And again, understanding, how do we decide what animals to call in or to interact with our pets? It's like, what's the guiding force as, again, we become aware of these magical tools that we have accessible to us?
So the first thing we need to understand if we're looking to leverage shape-shifting to bring it into our lives is, what is an animal what is an animal that is embodying or represents the energy, emotions, or vibration that I'm embodying? And the reason for this is shape-shifting is just that, it's a shift. And in order to create a shift, you need to understand the starting point. And so it's going to be important that as we tap into the shape-shifting energy, we are very clear on where we are with the starting point. So whether this is using our imagination, using animal oracle cards, we want to make sure that we identify an animal. And by the way, the reason this is so powerful is because if we're creating a shift in the energy and we're feeling, certain ways or emotions that we don't feel, or energies that we don't feel comfortable with, or that we want to change, we all know the modalities where you add a persona to it. Is it your inner child? Who is it? But the danger of personifying the energy and emotions with a human face on it is we have such complicated relationships with humans, right? Whereas if we're putting a vulnerable animal, if the energy that I come up with from a starting point is an injured deer, for example, I'm not going to tell it to pull itself up by its bootstraps to kind of figure it out, to get going. Your heart and compassion opens wide. And in that moment, you're offering that same love and compassion to yourself and that energy. So the first thing we want to do, whether it's through our intuition, through animal oracle cards, we want to establish the starting point of where we are, and then think about what's the opposite of that animal, right? So if I'm feeling like a small bunny that's kind of cornered somewhere, what's the energy I want? What's the opposite spectrum of that? Is it a big elephant that feels safe and protected? Is it, a mama bear that's going to go on the offensive and, attack? Like, what is it that we want to bring in? Thinking and imagining and sensing in terms of animals is going to help us really understand the energy and get clear on what we want that outcome to be.
That's such great advice. And it's so much to unpack sometimes as we go through, but I love that you're giving us these guiding tips. And do we go in and look for the characteristics of the animal online, go to the books again, like you said, go to the oracle cards? And is it just the intention of being with that energy that invokes it?
So this is where I love the idea of journeying, which is something that we'll talk about as part of the special offer. It depends on person to person. For me, I'm very clear cognizant. So for me, and clear sentient. So for me, it's the embodying, the feeling. Then I know it's there and I know exactly what it feels like in my body. But for other people, it's more seeing it in front of you or seeing it on a card or doing some Google. Regardless, shapeshifting is going to be a tremendous way for us to understand how we tap into our own intuition and knowledge of which animal wants to come through. But also, even more importantly, we're creating an intimate, deep relationship with each of these animals. It's interesting because I was working with someone and abundance came up. And I was like, wow, interesting. I have no idea what animal I would pick to represent abundance. So that became a whole, adventure trying to figure out and think through and, well, maybe this one, but maybe not. So when we're challenged in new situations, our relationship with the animals goes deeper and we start exploring and seeing animals and perceiving animals in different ways.
Wow. So what came up for abundance?
So I'm still thinking about it, but what I see in my mind's eye is this little, I don't know if it's a lemur, but it's this little raccoon looking like bear that's rolled on his back and he's eating, berries, and there's like a waterfall and there's no natural predators. I don't know what its name is yet, but I will find out. It might be a meerkat.
Okay.
I don't know. We start exploring these animals that we never thought about, but I'd love to hear from folks on the line what they might think of for abundance, because I'm still working on it. I'm still a little stumped.
I love it. And I love that it doesn't have to be the immediate answer. It's really building the relationship and the intimacy, and that starts to reveal itself. What's the relationship to shape-shifting and when power animals show up for us? Like if Jaguar is showing up for me continuously, it's not like I'm choosing the Jaguar. He's presenting or she's presenting herself to me. Mm-hmm. What's the inverse of that relationship?
So I love that. That is because you are tapped into that group consciousness. So on some level, that frequency resonates to you. So we talked about, form really being a manifestation of vibration and frequency. So as we move out of the 3D, which is very form driven, into the 5D, which is more vibrational, our soul becomes a collection of vibrations which make up a specific frequency. And as our frequency changes, we're able to connect with different frequencies. And some of us prefer one tune versus another. If Jaguar is kind of your natural universal love song, for others, it may be Dolphin. So it's just that resonance. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where, we're layering up, and everything gets smushed more and more and more. And it's just that oneness consciousness. But on the route to formlessness and more world of frequency and vibrations, we're finding, different groups. And then the groups get bigger and more faceless and more androgynous. And then all of a sudden, we're just an energy.
Nice. Is there a danger as we tap into certain qualities, for example, lying, that the aggression and other aspects of those traits come through in a way that it isn't necessarily our desired outcome, or it comes from a shadow aspect of ourselves rather than the intention of which it was articulated with?
Oh, that's a great question. So in the information that has come through for me, everything that the animals share with us are part of us. It's part of light and dark. So yes, of course, lion, might have some aggression. And if it comes out, who's to say it was unmerited? Let's look at the vibration and the frequency. What was it matching? What was it, cacophonous, or was it actually in perfect concert and harmony? As humans, and this is what's so cool about shapeshifting too, as humans, we've become very civilized. The whole story of Tarzan, wild, connected with one nature consciousness, and then, put on a suit and got disconnected. We're that Tarzan like energy that's been disconnected. We're remembering our ability to communicate and tap into all of these aspects with ourselves. So, for someone who's a people pleaser, if I embody lion and all of a sudden I'm standing up for myself, I might have my judgments around that, but
Yeah.
who's to say it's the wrong energy? It might be just the perfect thing. As
Mm.
long as you're consciously understanding the ramifications, what you're trying to do, the intentions, it's all there for the learning.
I love that answer. That's, yeah, and against the non-judgment, there's a natural organic unfolding that's happening, and to flow with it, it's like that intelligence. And I really feel that the quality of the divine support in which we ask it in is going to reveal itself.
Mhm.
Wow, it's so wonderful. I want to get into Q&A in just a little bit. And of course, we're going to go through the special offer because it's just, I'm so excited that you're taking people to these places. And again, we'll get into it in a few minutes, y'all. But Denise, as it relates to our pets, because so many people on the call today, they're interested in their pets and the relationship with the pets and how that manifests.
Mhm.
How's that manifestation of the shape shifting from our pets? How do we tap into their magic, or how do we have a relationship with their magic that they want to gift us and translate it in our actions in our other relationships?
So, one of the biggest gifts that our pets give us are the access points to open our heart, which open up our intuition. And when we open our intuition with these higher frequencies and vibrations, we're able to tap into higher consciousness. So, they're almost the gatekeepers, the ones who kind of are there helping us be open to all of this. Animals are amazing because whether our pets or animals in the wild, they are the keepers of our magic and wisdom in a 3D world of shape and form. So when we embodied, we knew we couldn't bring all of this with us. There was a little bit of a learning process that we were going to go through to polish and kind of get access to this magic. So since we couldn't bring it, they came here and they anchor it in. So they're exuding those vibrations, exuding those frequencies, showing us those magic on a regular basis. And our pets and animal companions are the ones that help us keep our heart open. And then, in
Right.
a very practical sense, if you're working with your animal companion and they have on leash reactivity, man, am I going to think hard about what animal I'm going to shape shift into so that on walks, my animal companion, little pet, feels secure. So that's where I might bring in elephant energy. I might bring in wolf energy. I might bring in sweet songbird energy to let them know that everything's okay.
Yes.
So our shape shifting is also a tool that we can use in our toolbox along with traditional training. And our animal companions are helping us pick which animal is appropriate and really play with this magic as a means to transform their behavior. And when we transform their behavior, we're transforming ourselves too.
Wow, it reminds me of which playlist do we want to play from our song list to get into that particular vibration and then holding that frequency. And it's an emotional, vibrational, energetic access point. Oh, I
Mhm.
love this, Denise. This is so good. This is so good. I want to get into Q&A if you're open to it and start
Yeah,
inviting people in. So I'm going to promote some of y'all to panelists here and
great.
we'll get into some questions. And you've got something else to share before we go there,
I
huh?
do. I
Yeah.
love it because somebody already, I just saw in the chat box, kind of did this. So one thing that I was going to suggest during Q&A is, rather than what does my animal want to share, let's either tap in on what animal wants to come in to support you in your shape shifting mission or what your pet needs. So let's get a little specific and play with all the magic available to us.
Okay, wonderful. I'm glad you touched into that. All right, so let's go to our first caller here. That's raise your hand, Jill. Let's get you to unmute, please, and welcome.
Hi, John and Denise.
Hey, Jill, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm always amazed at you. I love listening to you, and I'm just amazed at all the things that come through. You're just fantastic, and you're the
She's
best.
so amazing, right? I know, me too. I'm a
I
fan.
mean, always, always.
You guys are too sweet.
So, so I love what you're talking about, and I've already got an idea. So I have two cats, if you recall, Buddha and Cowgirl. Buddha is like a Buddha. He is also a, like a hormonal teenage boy too. He like really wants to play all the time and all these things. But you were the one who told me how aptly named he is because he's so sensitive. And I'm noticing now, like with the war, he's really like needing an animal guidance, something for me to shapeshift. I need help because his sensitivity is so great.
Jill, I love that we started off with this question because this, activity that's going on in that part of the world has really, I think, hit a lot of us hard. It's something that felt like it came out of left field. We all came out really hopeful into this year and, the reset period's behind us. Let's go do this. And then this just feels really, really heavy for us. So what this entire topic, by the way, thank you for hanging in with me on this topic. This has been a download in the past like 3 days. Right up until this call, all this information has been coming through. And the reason why we're on this topic with shapeshifting was because part of the special offer is going to be a course where we do a journey. And the places that we're landing in and leveraging animals to shapeshift with actually all are at an angle where they send love and stability to that area of the world. So I love that you're bringing that in. So sneak peek and preview, the way that we can use shapeshifting to help ourselves, our animals, and also shift global affairs is the exact same scenario of if you're going into a meeting, you choose an animal companion. Let's say if we want to change the energy on a global scale, what energy should we call in and where should we anchor it? So for example, what came through is going to be the energy of elephant in India at the Taj Mahal, the energy of ram, which is interesting because we're going into Aries season in Egypt, and the energy of lion in Greece. And with all those traits and those big kind of grounding energies, it sends that grounding and that love to that area of the world. So what I would say is ask Buddha, connect with Buddha and Cowgirl and be like, what animal are we going to ground in and anchor today? And let's send that love to that area of the world.
He said lion already. I got it.
Oh, I love it. Well, that's perfect. So now it's about going deeper. Okay, so if we're going to do lion, what traits of lion? Where is he? What does he look like? Is he standing proud? Is he down, down kind of with his...
No, he's proud like the Ukrainians.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And so, that golden energy of lion, lion also is about sovereignty and choosing your path. So that just is the perfect energy to be anchoring in. And us having and knowing that when, think about in mythology and in old traditions, who were the shapeshifters? It was the gods, it was the super beings, it was the humans. They were the ones shaping the world because they were leveraging the energy of animals. So we can do that as well. We have these superhuman powers. A lot of what I think is that the Egyptians left the hieroglyphics, all those cultures that have those, the Greeks, the pictures of the, half man, half bull. Everyone has their own belief. I don't think those were actual literal creatures that roamed this world, but I think they were showing the power of embodying both and bringing both together and basically shape-shifting and that magic. It's there as a reminder. So shape-shift every day with Buddha and Cowgirl, and just every day check and be like, which are we doing today, bud? And that also helps empower us, shift the energy of the world, but also makes us feel like there's something that we can do.
Yeah. Right. And it's also empowering the animal, right? Yeah. So that he's not as because he doesn't know what to do with his energy.
That's right.
Right? Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
It's the helplessness. Yeah. It was the sense of What Buddha's reacting to is a sense of the rug pulled out from underneath his feet and the sense of hopelessness. So first chakra stuff also is going to be really important. So send some extra love to his first and second chakras, because those are taking a little bit of the energetic hit too.
Yes, thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you, Jill.
Lovely to speak with you, Jill. Big hugs to the little ones, and
thank
keep
you.
New York vibing high.
Yes, and big hugs to you always, and to you, John. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Great to have you on. All right, let's move on to oh God, there's a couple things that I want to do. I'm shape shifting in multiple places at the same time. But what happens when you're like feeling that? And it's like, how do you choose a landing spot? Does it always come? Because sometimes even in the shape shifting, it's like where you choose to land in it is going to have a different type of outcome or direction than if you were to sit in it longer or act on the impulse, whatever it may happen to be.
So shape shifting, that's where motion helps. So moving around, acting like doing, dancing around, even, yoga poses are very mimicking of animals. Just move around, make the pose and make a decision. There's no wrong decision in shape shifting. It's just about experiencing new vibrations and frequencies. The biggest thing deterrent from shape shifting is the like, what if I do this wrong? What if I'm stuck in this form? What if I chose the wrong one and then something bad happens? Then you shapeshift into the other thing. It's all very fluid and you kind of zoom through it.
Excellent. All right, well, let's go to the next caller. And actually, Jill had mentioned having a session with you, and part of the special offer, and we're going to get into the special offer, y'all, in a minute. And Denise had alluded to it, but again, we'll give it some more deserved time here as well. But part of the special offer in package B is also a 30-minute session with Denise. And April, will you buy one for me right now? Because I want to get on the calendar. So I can go ahead and book that once we're done with the call. So I can't wait for my 30 minutes with you. So that's going to be amazing. And let's go to our next caller, Lisa. Welcome to the call. Lisa Claire. Can you unmute yourself? And thank you.
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
I'm new to the concept of shape-shifting, and so I have a question. My friend here.
So cute. Who is this?
This is Pedro.
Pedro.
He's very cute, but he is, I think, very terrified. And I think that he doesn't really grasp the concept of any human being like alpha in the pack. He attacks the television anytime there's an animal on it, and I mean attacks it. He goes after every animal we see. I worry when people come in my house, I have to hold him or he'll go after their ankles. Any suggestions on how I might be able to work with this to get him more comfortable? I mean, he's a great dog. He's the smartest dog I've ever had, except for that.
So it's really interesting because what comes through with Pedro is this energy of choice. And so he always wants to feel like he has choice. And he also wants to feel that he sees eye to eye with his leader or with his, and it's not a leader, with his partner. And it's so interesting because as soon as Pedro hopped on, as soon as you started talking, the energy of Rooster came in, right? Rooster is, they carry themselves. They know what they're going to do. They know their business, but they're small in stature. And that's what Pedro wants, because Pedro feels that all too often, and this has probably got a little reflection with the, shape shifting via the shedding of layers. There's this sense of not wanting to feel strong-armed into things, not wanting to be told what to do, but really being listened to, respected, and coming to a decision that works for everyone. And so what he's saying is, with you in your life, you might think back to moments and those kind of patterns where you're like, don't tell me what to do. I don't want to be strong-armed into this. I want to have a choice in the matter. So talk to him about that, be with him with that, because what he's also showing you is that there's that healthy balance between shutting people out because you don't want to be strong-armed versus listening to their point of view and letting them in. He says that sometimes you oscillate onto extremes. So that's a little bit of the guest reactivity too, is get out of my space, get out of my energetic space. Like, I didn't invite you in, who do you think you are? Type vibe. So I think, traditional training is always going to be a really good complement, desensitization to strangers, loving boundaries, giving him jobs to do when people come over, but also looking at that energetic part about, feeling strong-armed, those boundaries, where do I shut people out versus let them in, that collaboration, and then bring in Rooster to bring in some of that fun, playful leadership energy at his level too. It's like his little buddy. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
Lisa, thank you so
Pedro
much for
is
calling
so
in.
cute.
All
Aw.
right, we're going to go to some more Q&A, y'all. So definitely hang on to that. And right now, though, I do want to dive into the special offer because, again, the private session plus this guidance into all these different places and then the animals that come with it is extraordinary. So the link for the special offer, April's typed it into the chat box. Click on the chat box at the bottom of your screen, open it, and just scroll all the way to the bottom if you can't find it. It'll be right there in blue. Or you can go to open up a new link and go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Denise27. And it'll take you to that same page. And I'm going to share my screen as we go through this as well, Denise.
Oh, hallelujah. Okay.
And yeah, share with us what's
Yeah.
happening here.
So this is so exciting, because this is one of those things, like I said, literally hot off the presses. And I do believe a lot of it had to do with how we are feeling about and what's going on, with the Ukraine, and the dynamics with Russia. And it's interesting because now I think back to Pedro and I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting too, a little reminiscent. So Shapeshifting with Pets and Animals is going to be featuring an online course. And it's a course, but it's incredibly experiential. It's going to be, first we start off with a PDF that you'll download, Journeying with Pets 101. And this just kind of gives you some parameters, some guidance on the best way to journey with pets, how to make the most of it, how to capture insights coming out of it, and just some helpful things to remember. Because again, the next items are going to be very much focused around experience and journeying. So this is going to be our first live module together. And it's going to be it starts April 12th, but replays will be available. So if you can't join live, you'll get replays to all of these modules, and you're able to add some Q&A or some questions in the box prior to the live session. But this first item is Journey to Taj Mahal in India with Elephant. And so with this, we're going to explore the energy of the Taj Mahal. We're going to talk about Ganesh, who in the Hindu and Indian tradition is a shapeshifter, half human, half animal. And then we're going to talk about the energy of Elephant and go on a journey to meet Elephant in this area of the Taj Mahal, choose the traits that we want to embody of his, and really go through that process together. So that in this journey, not only are we anchoring in these vibrations to change global affairs, we're also learning to play with shapeshifting. We're learning whether visualizations are better for us, clairaudience through music. Is it the guided journey? Is it the narration? So we're learning throughout this journey how we shapeshift naturally.
Excellent.
The third item is going to be Journey to Karnak Temple in Egypt with Ram. And so John's smiling because I'm like, oh, he's anchoring in that energy for us. I love it.
Oh, yeah. I was just there.
I love that. So you'll be joining me and the group and your animal companions talking about Karnak Temple in Egypt and its significance. We're going to talk about Shapeshifter, and I don't know how to pronounce this quite well, Noom, and the energy of Karnak Temple, where we connect in with Ram. And we're going to, the same like we do with Elephant, we're going to connect with the energy of Ram, feel into the traits we want, really embody them and anchor it into the land, amplifying it out into higher vibrations and frequencies that go toward that area of the world. And by the way, for each of these modules, we're going to have live shares at the end. So we start with a didactic portion just to kind of ground in the place and the animals and get a little background. Then we do a journey that's usually 20 to 30 minutes long. And then we open up the line for live share. So you get to share your experience, your insights. We do many readings. So we all learn and benefit from it too. It's a lot of fun.
Amazing. All right, let's continue.
And then the final journey we do together is Journey to Delos in Greece with the energy of Lion. So we talk about Delos, which is the birthplace of Apollo and his sister Diana. And we talk about the shapeshifter Medusa and her half human, half snake story, how it pertains to healing, protection. And then we'll go into the energy of lion with the lions of Delos. And again, embodying the traits, enjoying, playing in the energy, and then sharing afterward and getting mini readings.
Excellent. And then there's some bonuses.
There are. So because we're coming upon the spring equinox, this is a really powerful time, and it really is when things start blooming and changing and shifting for a lot of us after the winter season. And personally, in my pack, we've had to say goodbye to quite a few pets in the past 3 months. So what I wanted to do before we enter the springtime and the bloom and the blossoming, I wanted to honor the energy of those who aren't entering the season with us. So what better way than a guided meditation? It's about 15 minutes long. And we go in and we connect with the energy of loved ones that have transitioned. And we connect with them to get a sense of what's before us, what's coming up for us, and how we can stay connected and go deep together. So this meditation and journey is available as of, right when you sign up. So you're able to do it as many times as you'd like. And you're able to do it with as many people, relationships, animal companions, experiences. Every time you listen to this guided journey, you get a different set of insight and ahas.
Wonderful. And then our next bonus.
So this is something that's really, really fun. The first full Tuesday of each month, we get together as a soul pack and we pull animal oracle cards. And this helps us understand the energy that's coming up for the month ahead. But then we also pull cards for the individuals, and you get a mini reading. So it's a really fun way to get messages from animals, and even, to your point, create a deeper relationship with animals in the wild that you might not necessarily know. So that's always a fun experience. And you'll get an email with access information, and you'll be invited to join. And for those who like to pull cards themselves or interested in tarot, we always have people pull cards for the group as well. So it's very much like a live share, joining together and just sharing.
I love this. This is fun. This is amazing. So all of this, y'all, it's a value of over $450. It's $97 with a 2-payment option. And to get into this information and the transformation through these activations and awarenesses that wake up within you and through your pets. What do you find when people listen with their pets, by the way?
Oh, like sort of how Pedro was there hanging out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best. They're really funny. There's some pets that just sit there and take in the conversation. They're almost like emotional support animals. And, you just see that the pet parent is stroking them and they're just chilling in the vibes. And then there's some that are super sassy. I'm thinking of Jennifer, you with Leo Luna. He'll pop in and you can almost see his expressions I don't think so. And walks off and then comes back in. So it's always a lot of fun to, their personalities really come out.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. Okay.
They're definitely as much of a member of our pack as the humans are. It's a lot of fun.
Oh my God. Amazing. So again, package A is $97. And then with package B, you also get a 30-minute reading with Denise. And Denise, what can this entail? I ordered a package. I don't have a pet, or pet doesn't have me, whichever way it goes. But the guidance that comes through is just, it's so spot on and so actionable. It's grounded and out there. What do people receive here? Describe what people get from, or some of the testimonials or whatever comes through for you. Yeah.
That's really funny that you say that. They are out there. A lot of, big comment I get from people doing first time readings with me is man, I thought that was going to be all about my pet. This was all about me. So we tend to get in these intuitive readings, a lot of information about the person, their gifts, their abilities, their habits, things that are ready to be cleared, things that are ready for them to tap into. We talk about relationships, and to your point, you don't have to have a pet. You can have a pet. You can have a pet that's transitioned. But truly, what I use the pets for is an access point. So even if you just love animals, and maybe you love animals in the wild, or you love dolphins, that's a really powerful access point for us to tap into the energy that wants to come through. The animal is really just opening the gateway and opening the floodgates for everything, because we connect with animals, we connect with humans, we connect with your gifts and soul purpose, we connect with galactics and all sorts of stuff that sometimes I don't even know what it is. It's very vibrational in its essence.
Right. Oh, amazing. And again, package A with package B. If you get package B, you get everything that's listed on here. Package B is $149. So for a very small portion to have the additional 30 minutes with Denise is a no-brainer for me. But I hope you guys take advantage of this. And I love what you're bringing and how you're bringing it, and bringing in these power centers with the animal that's inspiring the energy for those particular temples. It's extraordinary. Again, y'all take advantage of this. The link to do so is in the chat box. Click on that blue link or open up a new browser window and type in the ontheordinaryshow.com/Denise27. It'll take you to that same page. Click buy now. It'll take you 2 minutes to check out, and you'll get the links with all the information of the classes, the recordings, the bonuses, and how to book your session in that link. So take advantage of it. Denise, I want to go ahead and obviously get back into Q&A, but you mentioned shape-shifting with the galactics, and that's something, is like that question's been burning in me for 20 minutes. So the fact that you mentioned it, and we won't digress or progress into it too much, but how does that show up for us in galactic consciousness when we start? Is it that we're consciously doing it, or the galactics, well, again, like a power animal, they could be motivating an involvement in consciousness, but how can we call it in as well? And then how do we know where to go?
Well, I love it because I didn't know what the galactics were beyond watching, E.T. and loving that movie growing up until the spring equinox. Gosh, now I don't remember the year, but I think it was like 2012. And I was knocked out for 3 days, woke up on March 21st or whenever the equinox was. And that's where I got downloaded all this information about pets, their behaviors, how it links to our chakras, the energetic connection. So the galactics, man alive, I love them. And they're super active this time of year. I think it's that energy of 3 that just really activates that 3rd chakra and the power center. But the galactics, the way that I like to think of them in terms of shape-shifting is they are a group consciousness. The same way that our animals in the wild, like a flock of birds or a murder of crows, show up and they all look very homogeneous. So do the galactics in their energy. They carry a very universal frequency, from galactic to galactic. Pleiades are very different from the Arcturians, from the Venusians. And because they share that same frequency and vibration, they also appear very homogeneous, right? It's very easy to tell, the different looks. And as human beings, as we tap into higher vibrations and frequencies, our form is going to become less solid. It's going to be less unique to ourselves. And we are going to also begin to look more homogeneous, just as they are. So shape-shifting, they absolutely, just like, consciousness of animals, they're by our side, and we're able to tap into their consciousness and leverage their traits, their vibrations, their energies. I know that I recently had a reading with someone, and it was really quite beautiful because her animal companion crossed over to the other side, and the date was very important. It crossed over on the first day of the Pleiadian gateway. And it was interesting because the animal companion had showed a future date, something closer to Lionsgate. But because the energy of Lionsgate is very tied to Arcturian energy, which is more pragmatic, more kind of, a bit more masculine, it wanted to pass during the Pleiadian gateway because the Pleiadians are softer and sweeter and can help with the emotions and the nurturing of those emotions. So the same way that our animal companions carry different traits and different powers and different magic, our galactic allies also carry different traits and magic and abilities and gifts. They work with different aspects of ourselves. So that's one thing that I found really, really interesting. Pleiadians are very much with emotions, our emotional body. They have a lot to do with the dogs for that reason. The Arcturians are going to be a lot, and Pleiadians also have a lot of blue energy around them. The Arcturians are going to be very much more about, all right, let's get ourselves together. Let's have a plan together. Let's set, some routine. They tend to be associated with yellow, the 3rd chakra, the power center. Our Vega beings, the beings from Vega, they tend to be more about nature, about playing with the elementals. They carry a lot of that elemental energy and magic. So they're going to be great with shape-shifting as well in a really fun way. Whereas the Arcturians might not be the best ones to tap in with shape-shifting because they're very much stoic in who they are, what they want to do. They're very clear.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of how we can use shape-shifting. We can use our galactics for shape-shifting.
I love how you tap into all these consciousness and sharing in a very grounded way that we can access that intelligence. So this is so great. All right, let's go to another caller here. And there's some questions that came in also through the chat, but I'll go into those in a second. Deborah Rosum, welcome to the call.
Hello, John. Good to see you again, Denise.
Hi, Deborah. How are you? And Miss Katie. Oh, see?
She is.
There's an example of one of our little pets just soaking it all in.
Yes, wait.
She's always by my side. Yes, we're starting a new adventure, of course, which is so exciting. I will connect with you through a session, and I want to take the class and get the 30-minute as well, because I have to catch you up. But I wanted you in my Q&A question. I actually have not the answer, but we're now on a farm where we're both staying and working. So Katie is getting to be her channeling her working dog. In fact, we got a text while we've been on saying, when we're finished, we're needed to help put the goats back in. So she got her own text message saying, "Is Katie available?"
That's so awesome. Oh my, no wonder she's so tired.
Well, and we're on 100 acres in Ramona Valley, California, and for an extended stay of work and play. But we're surrounded by animals, goats, chickens, bird nature preserve. Egret is clearly the power animal that's going to be working with me while we're here. Roadrunner came with a message yesterday, but Katie she does, and some neighbor scouts are visiting, but Katie, she does really well with the smaller animals, but she barks at the horses, and there's like almost 20 horses here, and I like to visit them, and of course I want her to be with me, but she can't bark. And so we're doing a slow introduction. But as you talked about shape shifting, for both of us, but especially her, I want her to be able to access a shape shifted energy that is more integrative, with being able to go in and see and visit and work with the horses. And so I thought, as you talked, oh my God, that's what we need to do. She needs to shape-shift that working dog energy that she has with the goats.
That's great. So Deborah, what's your question for Denise?
Is that workable?
I love that. Absolutely. We can work alongside our pets, help us shapeshift, help them, go through it. But before we do, we have to understand the ramifications, right? Just like we talked about. So whatever animal that or whatever energy, it could be the galactics too, by the way, I know you're so connected to them. Whoever you want to shapeshift and bring into that equation and bring those traits and introduce them to Katie, and then let her, kind of visualize her, stepping into them. Understand, what you're bringing to the table and what kind of the expectation is, what happens from that. What's the, I don't like using the word consequence, but what's the ramification? What's the counter side of it? Also, before we shapeshift, we have to understand the energy at hand. And there's two things coming through for you. One, and I know this is one that I'm always like, oh, no, thank you. Snake. The energy of snake is with you and following you, but in a protective way. So, you know, what kind of glimmered in as snake was coming in for you was the energy of Medusa, this, which was all about being protective and about boundaries, right? So snake is coming through strongly to work with you. And then the other shape-shifting story they brought through for you and Katie is that story, and I don't know what their names are, but there were two humans, one shape-shifted into a bird, the other into a fish. And so they were never to meet again, except for at the very surface, but they couldn't live in each other's world. So one thing that's coming up as those shapeshifters came through is it okay if Katie isn't into the horses and that's something that you can do on your own? Is it okay to have a little boundary and separation between what, you know, your downtime and playtime and hers? Because it's also going to help with separation anxiety. If you go have adventures on your own and she stays behind and rests from chasing the goats or, you know, working with the goats and the cattle.
Well, that's what I've been doing. It's doing the horses on my own. I love that. She thinks they're very, very big.
Which they are. And it's that Arcturian energy, right? Horses carry that Arcturian power. So there might be, you know, you might ask her if she wants to take on a little bit of Arcturian energy herself, or you might just trust that relationship and that boundary and say, you know what, this is my thing to do when I connect with horse and Arcturian energy, and I shape shift into that. And then you do your thing. You know, maybe what you're doing is where it needs to go. Feel into that.
Absolutely.
Deborah, thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, thank you.
That's been wonderful. I'm excited for your session with Denise.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot that's coming through. It's so wonderful what's and your connection. So I know that just expands in the private sessions with her. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, let's go. There's a question that came in from Bridget, Denise. Bridget writes, can you share with me what the owl's message is for me today? It flew across my windshield like it was really trying to get my attention. I've been caring for my ill mother-in-law and feel a connection between the two.
So it's interesting because as soon as Owl came in, it was the magic of nighttime, the healing, powerful, transformative magic of that silver light of the moon and the silver light of the stars. So as you work with caring for your mother-in-law, it feels like it's actually activating inside of you and shape-shifting your gifts into a more prominent way. The energy that comes through, especially think of like owl feathers, those beautiful colors, those rich chestnuts, those golds. It feels like there's a lot of Celtic magic and healing modalities that come through tied to kind of Celtic energy, also with colloidal silver. So play with that, feel into that, but Owl is kind of bringing to the surface the aspect of yourself that is shape-shifting into the natural mystical healer that is informed by the silver energy of the stars and the moon.
Oh, amazing. I love how you can just pick this up like in this little short sentence. It's like, it just flows through. So incredible. All right, let's go to our next caller. And how about we go to Gina? Welcome. It's good to see you.
Gina, look at you.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, little one.
Not so little one, but yes. So this is Troy.
Oh, Troy.
And Denise has some familiarity with Troy from just an email exchange, but this is him. My question is around, thank you for the kisses, buddy, is around play. And he's young. He's not even quite 18 months old yet. And he was originally in a training to be a service dog. So his life was more about work and not so much about play. And I notice, and I've been aware of this for a long time, that I don't have a lot of play in my life either. And I'm wondering if shape-shifting, I'm not super familiar with it. And I have never been one to really care much or be interested in like fantasy and pretend and all of that. And I'm wondering if that's something that both of us really need some of because of the play element of it, or can you offer something around
I love that Gina and sweet Troy. Look at him with that big old body of
He
his.
likes to sit on my lap.
Oh, that is the best thing. So, when you say there isn't a lot of play together, it's interesting because although there's not a lot of play, there's a lot of lightheartedness between the two of you.
Okay.
That's something that's really quite beautiful. The energy that came through for you guys to shift into and play with is energy of bear. And of course, bear has many traits, but it's the bear that goes for the honey, that rolls around. Like you see those YouTube videos where they're just, silly and grabbing the honey and rolling around with the honey and the food and this and that and the other. So that's coming through. But separately from that, what they're talking about with this sense of I'm not into fantasy or role play, ditto sister. I was like, shape-shifting, I don't know about this, but there's something very different about imagining versus embodying. And so what they're asking you to do with Troy is embody. So rather than saying, hey, little one, let's have a good time, let's play, what if you shifted your energy into a playful energy, into whatever animal you think, a panda, bear sliding down, whatever to you is a playful energy that matches the frequency of play, embody that and just see how it goes. Because a lot of this sense or this belief of, I'm not really interested in fantasy or play, that's blocking your magic and your intuition. And in particular, your clairsentience and your claircognizance. You're discounting it as fantasy imagination, but it's actually a lot of tapping into group consciousness. There's one more thing they want to say here. And they're saying, again, seriousness is not a bad thing. That feels like something you've been told about, or a judgment that's been passed on you. You are just a very stable, beautiful, grounded, high vibing soul. It's what people tend to speak of as an old soul. And that doesn't mean boring or not fun or not lighthearted or not playful. It just doesn't fit other people's image of what you think you should be doing because people are telling you that. So no pun intended, play with that, be in that energy, and start embodying these animals and shapeshifting as a way for you to tap back into your intuition, your clairsentience and clairgnostic vibe. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I like the honey bear analogy.
That was awesome.
You love it.
Denise, I want to ask you, because again, when we get into labels, so Gina labeling herself as, we'll call it serious, not playful. I don't believe that either. But also her dog being named a service animal. How does changing our vernacular around that help to shift the energy also, especially with our pets as well? And does it?
Yeah. So, even things where like I call every animal companion little one, whether they're 500 pounds or a tiny chihuahua. And that always gets a giggle too. It's unintentional giggle, but like little things like that work. So and little one came to me from my heart. It was something that Archangel Michael he called me little one. So I started calling the animals little ones. But that was a moment of authenticity that turns into and translates, because it's authentic and it's coming from the heart, into energy that kind of tickles someone else's heart.
Yeah.
Right. So I think just like with our animal companions, we don't use the labels aggressive on the animals. We say, all right, they are insecure, they're hurt. It's really going away from labels and trying to find the energetic core of what is going on, and also honoring who people are at their core. When I do dog training with my clients, I say, I'm not going to be the dog trainer who's going to get your dog to come at the drop of a hat. I'm going to be the dog trainer who helps you understand where your pet's coming from, their motivations, honor their little spirits, and try to find a way that we can coexist safely and well together. But it's not going to be the best trained, come do this, do that. It's about the relationship.
Beautiful. It's wonderful. All right, let's go to another caller here. Heidi, welcome to the call.
Oh, another little one.
Trying to get the mute off. Okay, we got it. As soon as you promoted me to panelist, she jumped on my lap. She's funny. She's a 40-pound not lap dog, but she insisted. Denise, this is great. I had an idea from what you were talking about before, and I was wondering if you could give everybody a tip for something that's pretty universal, and that's when the dogs pull on the leash. So, we tried the dog trainer had recommended for my puppy, for instance, oh, it's gotten really bad, use a pinch collar, be very careful about it, yada, yada. It's all good. It didn't work so well. So we moved on to the ones that go around the snout. They work for a little bit and then the dogs pull the next time. So I'm wondering if you have a suggestion, because you were talking about shifting into the persona of certain animals. Do you have suggestions for all dog owners for a very common problem of the dogs pulling on the leash to get them to be more collaborative with us when we go on walks with them and that they don't pull?
It's a beautiful question, and that's going to be the key: collaboration, right? So all those collars that are meant to do all the work for you, those quote unquote silver bullets, they never work. If they work for a day, and then you're back to square one. So there's a few things we want to do from a traditional training standpoint. Getting on my website, I have the actual link to it, but it's a Freedom No Pull harness that attaches to the collar at the front. That's going to give you a little bit more of a connection together. Practicing commands during walks is going to be really important from like the get-go. Even before you hit the pavement, you want to practice some commands so that your energy is tied in together before the walk. And then keep them motivated, keep doing commands throughout, use treats. And then energetically, there's a couple things coming through. One, leveraging the roots of the trees underneath to be part of the process, to part listen. And you can almost see yourself as being a mandrake, the people who are linked to the roots and kind of walk through with the tree. The other thing is breath work, making sure that we're breathing slowly, consistently. We're modeling calm and trust. And interestingly, for you in particular, sometimes, that translates into a wolf or a bear or a big animal. For you, it's goldfish with the little boop, boop, like this just really sweet little energy with the breaths coming out and the bubbles. And then making sure that you are changing directions, changing focus, because odds are your pup, who looks incredibly intelligent and is a very intelligent breed, odds are they're bored. They're bored on the walk. They want you to pay attention to them. They want you to collaborate, to give them jobs to do on leash. So that's changing directions, doing meditative walks together, doing commands. And if all else fails, I love just 1, 2, 3, stop. 1, 2, 3, stop. And if the leash is short enough and you're holding your ground and your body's like a pole, they get it. They start syncing up with your energy. But at the end of the day, you guys are looking to do what we talked about earlier, which is meld your energy together so that you're walking as one unit. So you might even envision shape-shifting together on these walks where your energies kind of intertwine together and you're in lockstep.
There you go. There's a lot and a lot of information shared, but how wonderful that you asked that question for everybody, Heidi. Thank you so much. And again, for everybody, even through those tips and some of the other shared wisdom that Denise is bringing on here, you can really feel what's building from it. It's on the replay, so don't worry about being able to hang on to it. Oh my God, I'm going to forget. Wait, what did she say here? We'll send the replay link out a little bit later this evening in the email. And you can always access the replays by going to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/replay. And before I forget, and I'm not going to forget, but I want to get into reminding you about the special offer with Denise. Again, the reading, which is part of package A and B combined, and then go into these magical places and connect them with the power animals there and the live components, the transmissions that are going to happen, the numerology opportunity that you have with the reading, the tarot class, again, all the collaboration, and Denise just so exquisitely presenting and sharing and helping us to attune to that intelligence is beautiful. So I hope you take advantage of it. And again, the link's in the chat box. Just click on the link and it'll open up to the sales page and make it super easy for you to go ahead and book your session and to start participating in the class when they begin in April. So that's there for you. And Denise, as we wind up this evening, I'm curious what you've been shape-shifting into, what animals have been coming through for you, or how you're tapping into that intelligence as well.
I love that question. So What's been coming through most for me is shape shifting into the energy of the galactics. There's something really big going on. I don't know what it is. Anyone connected to the galactics, I think, is sensing this. There's some sort of calling that's coming in for us all to anchor in some more of that galactic oneness consciousness. And I think we're all getting called in our particular roles. So I'm really stepping more fully into that Pleiadian vibration, that Pleiadian frequency. I sense other people around me stepping more fully into that Arcturian vibration as well. And I think what's happening is a rebalancing of our planet and the energy around our planet, which is very necessary. And although it seems and looks a little disconcerting, this is all part of the plan. We have the power to shapeshift. And I think a lot of this happening is to remind us that we have this new tool, this new modality that is new, but so ancient, one of the most ancient of, that we can even think of in civilization. So to me, it's really stepping into the galactics as a way to see a bigger picture of how our animals are helping us with the shape shifting, clearing, and raising the vibration of our planet.
Wow. Oh, I love that. I have a lot of connections to the galactics as well, and as well to Gaia and the plants as well. It's this beautiful merging of both worlds for me that's coming through. But I love it when you collect to the galactic, excuse me. It's just, I'm hoping we can tap into it in my session. That's going to be really cool to go into. So maybe we'll share that on the next show, what came through my reading. But it's been such a wonderful call. And I'm so glad that you followed your guidance and you waited to present what was coming through. And in that, I just feel this is so perfect for where so many of us are, and really tapping into a power that we get to own and embody rather than acquiesce for something else and just wait for things to transition through us.
And I really appreciate each and every one of you. One of the things that I need to think about now is shape shifting from being a perfectionist into what is the opposite of a perfectionist, or what do I want to embody? Because usually I like to be super buttoned up, but the reason I know the shape shifting information is so important is because it did just come through, like literally 5 minutes before the call. I'm still getting, downloads and messages.
Wow.
So I appreciate all of you holding the space as I kind of flutter through some of the information, start, pulling it together. But because of the way it unfolded, this information had to come and is so important for all of us and the role our animals play with us. Hello, Pedro. Look at him hopping up there, center stage.
Oh my God, Denise, as always, such a pleasure. And thank you so much for just your generosity and your magical way of being that you show us that it's possible as well. It's always amazing to be with you.
Oh, well, thank you. And this group always just brings out amazing information. So thank you for the opportunity, and big hugs to everyone. And thanks for sharing your pets with us. They're amazing.
Yes, big hugs to everybody. Thank you for being here, and we will see you on the next call. Have a great evening.